Folks, prepare yourselves because Megyn Kelly delivered an absolutely brutal message for Barack Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Folks, he is so divisive, and actually, no, he is divisive. People talk about, oh, Trump is so polarizing. Barry is a whole other animal. For some reason, everybody doesn't see it because they're too brainwashed by the media and, oh, he's black, so he's a great guy. You know how it is. So with all that being said, we're going to get right into it. But first, do me a huge favor here, like our video, and also share it around so we can keep bringing you all this great, hard-hitting content. And as always, Patriots, I'm your host, Darian, and this is Resist the Mainstream.
We don't feel like ourselves. We haven't felt like ourselves in a while. And I'm sorry to get political, but I'm just going to be honest. We haven't felt like ourselves since Barack Obama. I just think he was such a slick snake. He was this affable guy who was like wearing good suits and looked the part and sounded the part and dressed the part, but was so divisive in his messaging. The left, they look at you like when you say this, they don't know what you're talking about. It's like, because you don't pay attention to the other half of the country. You only pay attention to your absurd news sources, which spin and spin and spin to protect Democrats, especially if they're named Obama. He's the one who started to inject race where no one had been doing it. He's the one who started to use his pen and the phone to shove things down our throat that we didn't want. He's the one who shoved through an entitlement on our health care and our personal doctor visits that he promised he wouldn't mess with, and then he did, really hurting people, causing massive anger and open lies. He never missed an opportunity to twist the knife on the racial issue. He would do it subtly and in his own way, but it was very clear what he was doing. For the first time, we had a president who weighed in on legal cases before they'd played out. We never did that. That was a taboo that had never been crossed before him. And Donald Trump was the reason Barack Obama, reverse that. Barack Obama was the reason Donald Trump came about, that he was born as a political figure. They say Trump's divisive. He was the antidote. He was the answer to the divisiveness of Barack Obama. And we just haven't felt like ourselves for years now.
Look, my fellow Americans, if I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin. That's a real Obama quote, by the way. I'm almost surprised he didn't follow it up with something along the lines of, America is the most racist country ever. I'm so tired of white people and all their racism against the poor African Americans. No, but seriously, what a disgusting and divisive man. I mean, this whole narrative, first of all, the guy who, ended Trayvon Martin was a Hispanic, but it was sold as, he's a white man who committed this crime to a black guy for no reason, unprovoked. He attacked him and ended his life. So evil. And, he was carrying a bag of Skittles. He's just an innocent little boy. Trayvon Martin had attacked the guy and was bashing his head into a sidewalk when this happened. Okay, so I don't want to even hear this stuff about how it's an innocent black man and racism. And he's not like a European Anglo-Saxon white guy. So that's not even true. Yet we hear all this narrative about how Trump is such a divisive guy. No, Obama was 10 times worse, and I'm sick of hearing it. Also, side note, it's kind of funny seeing Megyn Kelly talk about how Trump is the antidote, because remember how much he just couldn't stand Trump back in 2016? Remember that GOP debate? You've called women fat pigs, slobs, and disgusting animals. What do you have to say for yourself, Donald? Only Rosie O'Donnell. That was an epic moment. Maybe Megyn just started liking Trump back then, but she didn't want to admit it because he's just so charismatic and hilarious. Anyways, back to Obama being divisive. He essentially called Christians and pro-Second Amendment Americans a bunch of evil racists. Let's roll the clip.
People have been beaten down so long, and they feel so betrayed by government.
Well, it's not surprising then that they get bitter and they cling to guns or religion or antipathy towards people who aren't like them, or a way to explain their frustrations.
Let me ask you something. If you've built up $100,000 or more in investments, do you really want all of it riding on the stock market? Think about it. Banks, billionaires, even entire countries are loading up on physical gold and silver. Why? Because when markets swing, real assets hold their value. That's why I want to tell you about Noble Gold Investments. They make it simple to own investment-grade gold and silver, the same kind that the big players are buying. And you can actually hold it in your hand or Put it away, safe in your retirement account. You've worked hard to build your wealth. Isn't it time that you protected it? Noble Gold is family owned, trusted by thousands, and ranked #1 in gold IRAs 4 years in a row. Their precious metal specialists are standing by, ready to answer your questions and walk you through every step. Simple, safe, easy. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com today. That's noblegoldinvestments.com. It's time to protect what you've built. And now, Patriots, I am going to show you even more videos of the incredibly divisive Barack Hussein Obama.
We have to recognize that on both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. But I will say that those extreme views were not in my White House. I wasn't embracing them. I wasn't empowering them. I wasn't putting the weight of the United States government behind extremist views. And that is when we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem.
Right. Hey, remember Barry Hussein's "You didn't build that" speech? You know, a whole speech meant to belittle and, dismiss business owners, telling them that they should be paying more in taxes than they already are. Small business is hard. I'm sure some of you in the audience, some of our great fans have done it or currently own one. You know how it is. It's not easy. But Obama says, you drove on roads that taxes that other people paid for. Well, you hired employees and, they built what you had, all this stuff. Okay. Yeah, whatever, man. It's still much harder being a business owner than somebody who works a job. That's just the truth, whether you want to admit that or not. Or what about what he said in 2014, dissing rural American voters? I've got the exact quote here to read for you. He says that despite the fact that their communities have been hurt by the policies of Republicans, they vote against their own interests. There's a gap between how folks are doing and what they're hearing on Fox News. Talk about condescending. Dude, these same white people who voted for you ended up later voting for Trump, many of them. And that's because they saw how disgusting and divisive your whole thing was and how you weren't doing anything to help the American people. So miss us with that. That's just incredible. And how could you forget Barry's comments just before he left office in 2015 where he said that the American people are still bitterly divided by race? Yeah, and whose fault is that? Barack Hussein, always whining about white racism. His wife is a real piece of work too. Michelle, or as I like to call her, Big Mike, once said that the first time she was proud of her country was when Barack Obama became president, and then she went on to whine about racism later on. Really? Talk about being ungrateful and having a just disgusting attitude towards your nation. I'm sick of these people. With all that being said, folks, thank you for tuning in. We truly appreciate it. If you have not already, make sure you comment below. Let us know what you like about the clip, what kind of stuff you want to see in the future, and hit that subscribe button so we'll see you again soon. God bless.